So, question, pre-workout, yay or nay? People wanted some insight on this. Again, it's a very individual thing, but I'll give you a bit of an overview on it. I think it's something which people can sometimes overuse. It's not something which I sort of will recommend to people if people find it, and want to try it. It's up to them. It's something just to be mindful of in terms of what you do have, especially with the nature of some of the training that people are doing here. With it being sometimes quite high intensity, you just want to be mindful of how much stimulants you do have before elevating your heart rate already. If you're going to jack your heart rate up with a load of caffeine, then you might just want to be careful about how much you'd have of that before you then raise it even more by training. So it's going to be an individual thing, but I think it's just to be worth noting that caffeine does stay in your system potentially up to 9 hours after ingesting it. So if you train in the morning time, obviously that's not a problem, but if you train in the evening time, I wouldn't usually recommend it, because it's obviously going to have a knock-on effect to what time you can go to sleep. But morning time, obviously no issues at all. I do have a little bit of pre-work myself. I literally have a small cup of coffee before I train, maybe about 30 to 60 minutes prior to when I'm going to have my session. I'll maybe have a small amount of branched chain amino acids if I'm training early in the morning and I've not eaten anything. I actually sometimes, or recently, have been including a little bit of beetroot powder extract within my BCAAs, and from time to time I'll also have maybe a little square of high percentage dark chocolate for just a little bit of energy. It's a nice little combination with the coffee and the branched chain amino acids. But it's going to be a bit something which you want to play with, trial and error a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of kind of like stimulants other than what I've just described. It's something which some people have maybe played with and liked or disliked, but I like to the old-fashioned coffee just beforehand. Some people don't like to be taken up to that sort of high point that coffee gives them, in which case they'll steer clear of it. But I think the biggest thing is just to make sure you're possibly hydrated, especially if you train early in the morning, going into your session, and maybe have some branched chain amino acids to sip on. Some people like to have, if they're doing a long, maybe weight training session, maybe have a little banana or something, or half banana as they go through the session if it's quite a long one. But generally, if you're doing more kind of CrossFit style workouts, I generally like to go into those on as empty a stomach as possible. So my final meal would have been probably a good, if I'm training later in the day, at least a 3-hour window before I train. So it's something which you're going to have to play with yourself, but hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into what to do pre-workout. Earlier in the morning, potentially I go in fasted and not have anything if I'm doing an early morning class, and run off the fuel that I've eaten from the food the night before. If I'm training later in the day, I would have ate thoroughly throughout the day, but left a window of at least a 2-3 hour period prior to training, so to the point where I almost feel a little bit hungry, just to make sure that I've not got food in my stomach trying to be digested, which blood's going to be going to instead of the working muscles that I need for the training that I'm doing. So it gives you a bit of insight. If you wanted some more information on that, we're happy to help you.